bowl time, and it doesn't feel like it used to, and that's okay. So I thought it would be important to talk about bowl season and what it is, what it could be, and what it should be. I think all three of those are important. So let's get into it, because there's a lot of bowls, and people, I think, take shots at bowl games and just bowl season, and I believe that they are ill-advised. And I think the premise of bowl season is basically that bowl season is a quality part of college football. We just have to think about it a little bit differently. Okay, so what if I was to tell you that I believe in the bowls and the bowl system? And what if I was also to tell you that I am a firm believer that the expansion of the playoff to 12 teams is necessary and needed, although those are probably the same thing, but needed for the health of the sport? And then what if I also went a step further and I said those two things should be totally different from one another? Okay? Let's start thinking about the future of college football while also not being prisoner of the past of college football. There's a lot of things that are great about the past, there's no doubt, but there's some things that we're going to try to hold on to, I think, like bowl season being one of those, and the importance of some of these bowls that could hinder the future of the sport. Okay, so let's just get into it. Let me just start with with this. I really love the bowl system, and I think bowls are important. Okay, so let's get a few reasons why that's the case out in the open right away. First and foremost, it's a really rewarding experience for the players. Okay, the overwhelming majority of players in college football really love going to bowls, love going to bowl sites, and love competing again for another chance to compete. So that's number one, and I'll expand on that in a little bit. It's also a rewarding experience for teams that, get at least to the 6-win mark and beyond. There's that. There's the development side for the program's sake of having those extra bowl practices. And then, as I just alluded to, it's another chance to compete. You see, the overwhelming majority of college football players actually want to play in these bowl games. I think that we focus way too much on the opt-outs, and we think of them as a giant problem within the sport. Opt-outs are not a problem, all right? They're a champagne problem, meaning, hey, there's some of these players, like 1% of the players at most, that have put themselves in a position where they feel like they cannot improve their draft stock, which means that they're about to enter into a phase of life and a period of their life and their career where they can change their life and their family's life forever because of the skills that they have on the football field. Good for them. We should never begrudge that opportunity. And if they don't feel like they want to or need to compete in the bowl game, fine. You see, opt-outs are here. They're here to stay. And so we should probably put them in proper context, which is they're very rare, even though that's all we talk about, but they are very rare. They're in a class of player that we can very easily say good for that player. And then we can also turn around and say, hey, the 99 other guys just really want to compete. So we should allow them to do that. I just think that there's way too much conversation about the opt-outs and how that's, quote, hurting the sport or hurting the bowls. Yeah, only if you think that the bowls are vitally important to the season, which I actually don't think that they are. And let me back into all of those things. All those elements that I was talking about lead me to this point where you've got to separate the bowls from the playoff. Okay, so this is where the rubber meets the road. The expanded playoff, while necessary, is going to, quote, kill the bowls. Now, is it every one of the bowls? No. It's only the bowls that we want to, for whatever reason, hang on to as being vital to the sport. Now, you can say that bowl season and the bowl experience is great and should be retained, and it needs to evolve a little bit, and I'll get into those areas in a little bit. And then also realize that the importance of those games is going to continue to diminish, in particular once we get into this expanded playoff field. So I do think that it's very important that we understand that the playoff needs to be the playoff and bowl season needs to be bowl season. We just need to separate the two. Okay, so that leads into this next thought, which is if you're building the college football playoff, I think it's important that you focus on building the best playoff possible. You're not sitting there trying to focus on, well, how do we also allow these things that don't really matter to be a part of our game just because we like the people involved with those games and it's just kind of been a part of the history. Again, that should not be a part of the process of building the future playoff. I'm talking about 26 and beyond, right? So we're going to have the quarterfinal games in bowl locations when we get the 24 and 25 year and we get the 12-team expansion in those first 2 years. But 26 and beyond, this thing, I think, needs to evolve. Okay, so the playoff should be built for the playoff's sake, and bowl season should exist for the bowl's sake, and they should be separate. Let me give you a quick analogy. When Netflix was like first a thing, right? First it was like, hey, it was this mail order like DVD rental system. And it was like, well, that's weird because there's Blockbuster. And Blockbuster might be even like more convenient. And it's just a part of like the nostalgia of, if you're my age, I'm 40 years old. And it's like, you know, in high school, a lot of times, you know, you would hang out and you'd be like, hey, let's like go rent a movie or family movie night. And the part of that entailed going down to Blockbuster and walking around the aisles and like trying to rent a movie. And so this Netflix thing, it's like, I don't know, you know, like, is it really a thing? Well, then, you know, the internet exploded and Netflix becomes a streaming entity. Well, when that's happening, did Netflix allow the executives of Blockbuster to sit in on their board meetings to say like, well, this is how I think that you should build your business and expand while also making sure that we exist, please? Like, that didn't happen. They were in direct conflict. And I believe that the bowl experience and the playoff expansion are also in direct conflict. So the more that we try to allow one to exist within the other, the more that we're going to build a system in the future playoff that, to be honest, probably isn't the best possible system. For example, I believe that we should be playing as many games as possible in the new playoff in home venues on campus. I'll go a step further. Everyone's saying like, oh, the first 2 rounds should be at home. Yeah, they should be at home. So should the semifinal. And by the way, there's not a doubt in my mind. You should further incentivize the top 2 seeds. You should further incentivize the top 4 seeds. Yeah, like all of this should be on the table. We should talk about this. There's no reason to go play in a bowl game. What are we going to, within the playoff, you're going to call yourself like, we're Peach Bowl champions. I'm sorry, that doesn't make much sense to me. Hey, thanks for watching. If you enjoy that clip, make sure you click subscribe somewhere down here. From game highlights to exclusive interviews and rankings, we've got everything you need as a college football fan right here, College Football on Fox.